In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build elite level speed without extremely complex programming, and I'm going to do it in less time than you would think it would take. And I'm going to do it all personalized for you depending on what type of athlete you are, all inside of this video right here. So this is the how to build elite level speed without extremely complex programming in less time than you would expect. And it's a personalized version. But super quick before we get into it, I just gotta give a little bit of credibility of myself. Who am I? Okay, so who am I? Why should you listen to me? My name is Luke Warwick, and I've been studying speed training for over 5 years now, and I'm a certified athletic trainer. I specialize in speed training, and basically throughout my whole life, I've had speed training coaches coach me on how to get faster. And when I started getting more serious about speed training and athletic training other people, I was hiring people to teach me about speed training. So I've had multiple speed training mentors throughout my life, people who are very successful speed trainers. Here are a few of them. One of them that I worked with from a very young age is this man right here. His name is Spencer Clevenger. As you can see, he's on the roster for the 2023 coaching staff of the Cardinals. I was working with him from a very young age, and he was my coach, and he's where I first started getting into athletic training, and he's what really made me enjoy it. And then from there, I was able to get into a private training gym with this man right here. His name is Bart. Bart has trained many NFL athletes, MLB athletes. He's taken people from middle school, started training them, and took them D1. He did that with almost every single person that went into this gym. I mean, this guy was really the GOAT of where I was in St. Louis, Missouri. The gym is called Athletes Unlimited. It is a very serious gym, and Bart is extremely serious on his athletic training and mainly speed training. He trained multiple track athletes, very high level D1 athletes that went to either Michigan or Ohio State, you know, the big schools. This guy was the one who was training them. And then this man right here is Robert Baker. He was my decathlon coach when I was training for the decathlon. He holds the world record still to this day of the decathlon mile. So at the end of the decathlon, you run a mile. To this day, he still holds a world record for that. And he was preparing to go to the Olympics for the decathlon. He was a very successful decathlete. He obviously had many speed training coaches throughout his entire life, and he became one as well and taught me a lot of the stuff he knows, and is where I get a lot of my speed training knowledge from as well. So on top of these three mentors, on top of all of my own research I've ever done, and on top of me getting certified as an athletic trainer, I have been working for the past almost 2 years now. We're coming up on 2 years with Essam Asingah himself. Yes, this is the man who beat Noah Lyles in the 100 meter.
What I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
If you know, you know. Been working with him for coming up on 2 years now on something unreleased, not talking about it, but just listing out some credentials here so you guys actually apply what you're gonna learn in this video. So here's how this is gonna work. Remember when I said I'm gonna show you how to build elite level speed without extremely complex programming in less time than you would expect? That's because this video is gonna be personalized for you, all right? That's why it's gonna take less time than you think. If I were to just give a general explanation on how to get faster, it would be different for every person because every person is different. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. And I want to be able to give you a specialized plan to get faster based on what your strengths and weaknesses are. So the way we're going to do that is you're going to pick your own adventure here. You're going to pick one of these four, and below this video, there's a timestamp where you can click on the one that best describes you. So which of these four best describes you? Are you strong in the weight room but sprint slow? Are you strong in the weight room and sprint fast? Or are you weak in the weight room and sprint fast? Or are you weak in the weight room and sprint slow? So which of these best describes you? And we can base strength off of this list right here. So you might want to get out your calculator right now and you can calculate these lifts to your body weight. So for example, for the barbell back squat, if you were to consider yourself strong, then you would be able to do your body weight times 1.25 of your body weight on the back squat. So just get out your calculator, type in your body weight times 1.25, click equals whatever that number is. If you can barbell back squat that for 3 to 5 reps, then in this case, you're considered strong and for the barbell back squat. Now, it'd be ideal if you could be strong in all of these lifts, or at least close to this, then you would be considered strong in this scenario of the four that you're gonna have to pick. I want to be able to see a general range of who you are so I can personalize this video for you and make it a lot quicker so you can just skip to that part of the video. So I'll show you this screen again. Pick one of these 4, and down in this description below, you'll see these 4 and you can click on it and it'll take you exactly to that spot where I'm talking about it. And then once you're done watching it, we're all gonna meet up at the timestamp wrap up, okay? So watch your specific video, and then when it's over, click on the wrap up timestamp, and then we're all gonna meet back up there. All right, so go do that right now. I'm waiting. Okay, so if you're watching this one right here, you are strong, but you sprint slow. So what's crazy about this one is that was actually me. So you guys get a practical case study of exactly what I did to get a lot faster, because I promise you, I was always the athlete that was super good in the weight room. I was always at the top of the leaderboard on the football team, on the track team. I could always lift the most weight out of anyone on the team, but that didn't mean I was the fastest on the team or the best on the team. So some proof of this, I was squatting almost 2.1 times my body weight on a full depth squat, which is the strength recommendation for the quarter squat. At this time, I was also like benching 265 pounds. I was cleaning 225. I was extremely comfortable in the weight room, but I just couldn't apply that strength into power through sprinting. I had great strength. I was even training power in the weight room, but that power was not transferring into sprinting. And I didn't know why at the time, but because you guys are in this one, you guys are strong but slow, that's what I was. I'm gonna show you exactly what I did in order to transfer that power. So this is what it is. It's a 3-step system. Number 1, we're gonna go over sport-specific power, supersetted with plyometrics. Okay, we're gonna learn to transfer that strength you have into usable power output. That's super important, usable power output. Number 2, we're gonna talk about leg speed. It's completely slept on. Nobody in the speed industry talks about leg speed and turnover rate nearly as much as they should, but I'm going to be getting into it in this. And I'm going to be talking about hurdle work and, creating flexibility and elasticity through hurdles on the track or hurdles on the field, and kind of the different exercises that you guys should be doing with hurdle work. So I'm going to be going over all 3 of these, starting with number 1, sport-specific power, supersetted with plyometrics. So sport-specific power and plyometrics are unbelievably important. This is probably the most important one out of any of the sections in any of the videos that I'm going to be doing in this YouTube video. Your first step in building power that's specifically for your sport that you can transfer over is to drop the weight and lift the weight faster. We're going to want to be exploding up at a 0.6 to 1.2 second concentric. Okay, so when you eccentric, you're going down. When you concentric, you're going up. So you want your up movement to be 0.6 to 1.2 seconds. If it's not, then your concentric isn't fast enough and you need to drop the weight more. We need to be exploding up with heavy weight a lot faster than what you're probably doing right now. So if your up movement, your concentric is 1.2 seconds long, then that means that's the max weight that you should be doing. So now, what is sport-specific power? Sport-specific power is mimic training, basically. So if speed is, I put acceleration there, but I mean speed. If speed is short ground contact, highly explosive, full effort, and single leg movements, then why aren't we doing those in the weight room? Why aren't we doing highly explosive, short ground contact, full effort, single leg movements in the weight room? That's what we need to be doing. And obviously, occasionally we don't need to do everything with short ground contact, but we should be doing that, which leads me to my next point, supersetting sports-specific power movements with plyometrics. This is how we transfer it. This is how we make power become usable power to be able to be applied into the ground. So sport-specific, meaning whatever you're trying to get better at. If you're trying to get faster, then sport-specific just means sprinting specific. So acceleration, if you're trying to get better at acceleration is quad and hip flexor dominant. If you're trying to get better at top speed, then top speed is going to be more hamstring, Achilles, and hip flexor dominant. So these are the power movements we need to be doing in the weight room, because right now you can be strong within those lifts like I was, but it won't be transferred into sprinting, because sprinting is not just force production, it's also force absorption. Think about that. You can't sprint with just force production. There's always going to be force absorption and then force production. So if you're just training force production in the weight room, then it's not going to be usable force production. It has to be force absorption to force production. So that's why we're supersetting sport-specific power movements with plyometrics, because plyometrics are force absorption to force production. right? Like a pogo is force absorption to force production, whereas just lifting is just force production. So to teach your body to transfer sport-specific power into ground contact output, then you're gonna need proper short ground contact time force absorption. So force absorption and force production can both be done within a long ground contact time or a short ground contact time. One is gonna be increasing the general strength of it, making it stronger, more powerful, and the other one's gonna be decreasing the ground contact time of it, making it more elastic, okay? So when we superset the weighted power movements with the plyometrics need to be short ground contact plyometrics because those are gonna equal force absorption and production. And we want both because we're transferring that power, and that's how we do it. So I hope that makes sense. That's the first part, that's sport-specific power and plyos. Step number 2, leg speed. Not talked about enough. Let's go over it. Turnover rate and leg speed. Unweighted, ultra-fast leg movements. This is how you build leg speed. Fast twitch muscle fibers will not increase leg speed. Let me explain. If you do power clean, is that increasing your fast twitch muscle fibers? Yes, it is. Will power clean increase the actual speed of the leg? Not really. It won't. It'll increase the strength that is going to be required to move the leg faster, but it's not going to actually be the thing that moves the leg faster. So the only thing that will increase leg speed, that'll increase your turnover rate. And why is turnover rate important? Because that means you're going to be able to apply the force production more times throughout the race. Okay? If you have really good force production, but someone else applies it more times throughout the race because their turnover rate is faster, then they're applying it more times, so they're going to be moving faster than you. You have to be able to get your feet down fast enough to be applying that force production. So the only thing that'll increase leg speed is leg speed. That's the only thing. You have to literally move your legs fast. That's the only thing that'll increase it. Okay? People don't talk about this enough. It's like a speed secret, all right? Move your legs faster in the weight room. Do leg training to move your legs faster, and that's the only thing that's actually going to increase leg speed to increase your turnover rate. Now, a huge factor of increasing leg speed is going to be your nervous system. A lot of times, your muscles can actually handle a faster leg speed, but your coordination and central nervous system isn't adapted enough to it yet because it's not used to it. Because all you're doing in the weight room right now is, pushing weight, and you think that, you pushing a lot of weight and doing power clean and doing power movements is going to get you faster, but it's not going to increase your leg speed rate. The only thing that's going to help with that is your nervous system and doing ultra fast twitch movements. And the good thing about nervous system training is the results come a lot faster. The adaptation comes a lot faster. You're going to start noticing progress right when you start nervous system training immediately. A nervous system is basically your coordination. It's how well you're able to use your muscles. That decathlete coach I talked to you about, Robert Baker, he taught me this about nervous system. If you take your finger right now and you try to tap as fast as you can on either side, you're eventually going to mess up or slow down. Even if you don't see it to the eye, 2 seconds in, you're slowing down already. And that's because your nervous system can't handle it. It's not the muscles in my finger. The muscles in my finger can take this all day, but it's my nervous system that won't allow me, and it will mess me up. I'll double tap on one side, or it's just the coordination. It's how I'm able to control my body. So if you want to increase your leg speed, if you want to get coordinated and just feel way faster, that's through nervous system training. So through nervous system training, you're going to get full body control and visualization. You're going to be able to feel, you're going to know what it feels like before the race even starts, what it feels like to race and win that race. The nervous system training is slept on, the turnover rate and leg speed is slept on. So now let's go into overspeed training because that's going to be another key aspect of increasing leg speed. So you need to train faster than the speed of your sport. Get that through your head. If you want to increase leg speed, why are you going into the weight room and performing movements that are slower than sprinting? Because think about this, if you wanted a better bench press, a lot of the times you would go into the bench and you would lift more weight than you could handle. A lot of people do that to increase their bench. They put on more weight than they can handle. They do a slow eccentric, or they just fail the rep because they can't do it. Or they can bench 225 for 5 and they try to do a 6th rep. You do things that you can't handle in order to get better, in order to get stronger. So why don't we train faster than the actual speed of sprinting? Sprinting is one of the fastest things our bodies can do, and we expect to get faster at that thing without doing any fast movements. We need to be moving faster than the speed of our sport in order to get faster. In order to be able to move our bodies that fast, that is the ultimate plyometric. Sprinting is the ultimate plyometric. In order for us to get to that point, we need to be doing things that are similar to that in the weight room and even faster than that in the weight room, so that when we get out onto the track or onto the field, that our bodies are already prepared and ready for what's coming, and it already knows what moving really, really fast feels like. So that last point under overspeed training, weight room and mainly track and field overspeed training, meaning you can overspeed train in the weight room and you can also overspeed train on the track. It's going to be different seasons. It depends on a bunch of different things, but overspeed training in the weight room looks a lot different than overspeed training on the track. They're very different things. Overspeed training on the track is more of, things pulling you to move even faster than you're able to go. And then weight room overspeed training is assisted movements, movements that are going to be assisting you to move even faster. But those two things look very different. So make sure you're doing unweighted ultra fast leg movements, nervous system training, and overspeed training in order to get faster leg speed and turnover rate. And remember, train faster than the speed of your sport if you want to actually get faster. Okay, moving on. Step number 3, hurdle work. I'll make this one quick. So with all this hurdle work that I'm going to be explaining, this is not done through little wickets. This is done through those big actual hurdles that, track athletes will hurdle over in an actual race. You're going to want to be doing hurdle hops. Those will convert sport-specific power into usable force production and absorption, because you're going to be having to jump a lot higher, and it's just going to be forcing you to put a lot more force on the ground. And the higher you go up, the higher your plyometric is, then the more force you're going to have to absorb on landing. Hurdle hop plyometrics are going to be super important for you guys to be utilizing, but don't superset these. Do them 3 times per week with full speed sprinting after it. So just do the full routine. Full plyometrics over it. You can do skips to the side or over it. You can do hip mobility going under it. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do with the hurdles, but just make it its own routine. It's going to be strengthening your hip flexors a lot. So consistent reps over time is going to equal lighter and faster legs. The lighter your legs are, the faster your legs are going to be able to move. All right, and the only way your legs can feel lighter is through strengthening your hip flexors, and that's going to be done through consistent hurdle work. That means all that hip mobility work, stepping over the hurdle, going under the hurdle, going under. That stuff is all going to increase the strength in your hip flexor, and that's going to help your leg speed, okay? So it all adds up. And then again, that leaves me daily hip mobility. This is going to be strengthening your hip flexors through lengthening them. More mobility equals less injury, faster top speed, looser top speed, better form, and less energy expenditure. That's going to be super important when it comes to top speed. Top speed, a lot of top speed is about energy expenditure, and if your legs feel a lot lighter because your hip flexors are stronger, you're going to be expending a lot less energy. And a lot of the power you generate is going to be generated through the hips. That triple extension on your block start, all that stuff is through your hips, so your hips can't be tight, they got to be loose. So this hurdle work is going to be so key for you being a strong but not as fast athlete. This is super, super important. So we went over these 3 steps: sport specific power, learn to transfer it; leg speed, trains faster than the speed of your sport; and hurdle work, create flexibility and elasticity to decrease your energy expenditure at top speed. So we went over all of these three steps quickly one more time. Drop the weight, move it faster. Do sport specific power, which is mimic training. All right, that means I'd recommend doing lots of single leg movements, because you don't sprint on 2 legs. So single leg movements, extremely powerful and forceful movements, fast movements, that's sport specific, that's sprint specific. And then superset with plyos, because we're transferring it into usable power. Turnover rate, unweighted ultra fast leg movements, nervous system training, and overspeed training. And then we just went over hurdle work, hurdle hops, hip flexor strengthening, and daily hip mobility for consistent long-term growth and decreasing energy expenditure. So that is the whole framework for if you are strong but not as fast. That is exactly how I was able to get a lot faster and actually win state with my team, with my track team. I was on the 4x1, the 4x2, 4x4. I was throwing javelin as well. So that's the exact framework specifically for you, because you are strong and not as fast. And that's what I was as well. So I hope that helped a lot, and you guys should go to the timestamp wrap up, and everyone will meet up back there. Okay, if you clicked on this section, then you're strong and you sprint fast. Now, this probably means you're either a very genetically gifted athlete, and that's great, or you're just an athlete that worked extremely hard to get up to this position that you're in right now, where you can lift a lot of weight and you're also very fast and you're applying that strength in the weight room to your speed, which is great. But if you're watching this video, then you obviously want it to get even faster. You know, you're not satisfied with what you got right now, so you're probably not seeing as much progress as you would like. So that's what I'm here to help you with. Now, if what I just described doesn't sound like you, then maybe go click on another timestamp, because this is really for the guys who are strong and fast and they just aren't seeing enough progress. So if that's you, then here we go. So it's a 3-step system. Work on your weaknesses, switch up the training routine, and structure workouts properly. So I'm gonna be breaking down and going over each one of these specifically for you. So number 1, start working on your weaknesses. Analyze yourself and make a list is number 1. That's super important. So you need to make a list from 1 to 3. Number 1 being need to work on the most, and number 3 is still needs improving. This is so important for you specifically, because if you're strong and fast, then you need to get really nitty-gritty and very detailed on what isn't going right. Because if a lot is going right, then that means you got to really target the small stuff that's not going right, and that's going to boost you up a lot. So you got to figure out what your weaknesses are. Some examples of that could be force production, turnover rate, drive phase, top speed, and speed endurance, elasticity, reaction time, coordination, running, form/technique, or flexibility/mobility. Any of these would work. It doesn't matter. Whatever needs improving the most, you should analyze yourself, look at your running form, or just, you should be able to kind of know. Like, for example, if you just know you're not flexible at all, and you see everyone else around you that can touch your toes, you can't touch your toes, all that stuff has an effect. And at this point, because you're strong and fast, you just got to find out what it is that you need to start working on. So for example, if that in the bottom right is your list, then that would mean that when you first come into the weight room or when you first come into training, then you're going to want to be doing those most important movements first. That's so important. After your warm up, obviously do your warm up, get loose, do build ups, whatever it is. But right when you get into training, you always want to do your most important things first, so your body is fresh and ready to go. So if you need to work on your dry phase, like your start is really bad, everyone's cooking you out the blocks and then you catch up later, then you really need to work on that first thing. As soon as you're done with your warm up, first thing, block start training, work on technique and form, and really focus on driving your feet into the ground. And just in general, weight room wise, need to be working on force production and sport specific power force production. So that's number 1. You need to work on your weaknesses. All right, make a list and then work on them first thing when you first start training. Okay, that's 1. Number 2, switch up training routine. So if you're strong and fast, my favorite way to get you faster is always to be switching up the training routine consistently. Your body cannot be used to its training routine. The only thing your body should be used to is your warm up, because that should be a consistent structure, which we'll be getting into on number 3. But you're probably used to your current workouts, and even if they're hard, you need to switch them up, because you need to be getting sore from your workouts. All right, your body can't be used to your workouts, and that might be why you're not seeing constant progress. And if you're not, then you're not switching up your training routine enough, you're not doing different seasons enough. So let's go into switch up training routine. First off, shock the body, okay? You need to be shocking the body consistently, meaning the body can't know exactly what your workouts are gonna be, because then they're not gonna grow and adapt, because the muscle only tears when it is put under high stress and it doesn't know what is happening. If you're not getting sore from your workouts, you're not changing up your routine enough. So also going along with that is you need to train for longer with higher intensity. So if your daily workout routine looks like warming up, going to lift, and then you're done, then that might be something that needs to change. Maybe you got to do a full warm up, some block starts, and then go lift, and then go sprint after, okay? Or if you're already doing that, then you need to go back in the weight room and do some core, some hip flexor strengthening, and some stretching. But whatever it is, you just need to add on to it, because if you're already strong and fast but you're not seeing progress, then the only thing to do from there is to shock the body, train with higher intensity, do things that your body isn't used to, and then start going through phases of training, which is what I'm going to get into next. So you got to structure workouts properly. That's super, super important. And that applies in single sessions and throughout the seasons of training leading up to your season. So here's how to properly structure your training. So in a single session specifically, you're going to want to start with your warm up and prep, okay, just getting blood flow. Fastest movements / most important movements first. So after your warm up, that's what you got to do first. And a lot of times, especially in this case, if the goal is speed, if we're trying to get faster, then our first movement is going to be our fastest movement because that's the one we're trying to get better at first, because our body needs to be fully fresh, it needs to be fully ready for these movements. And if you do a bunch of movements before a super fast movement, you're not going to be able to do that fast movement that's important well enough. You're not going to be able to do it at full speed, which is super important. You need to be able to do it at full speed. That's why we do it first, okay? So you warm up and prep, and then you go into your fastest movement or most important movement. And then from there, you go into isometric or overcoming isometrics. This is kind of your strength phase of the workout. So isometric, holding one position, or overcoming isometric, pushing up into an immovable object or pushing into an immovable object as hard as you can. You're basically static in one spot, pulling as hard as you can. That's really going to be increasing elasticity and strength, and then we can also superset those with plyometrics, so that can come after that. And then from there, if you want to do isolation movements, isolation is just one muscle group only. That's like a machine. If you were to go on a machine, that would be when you do isolation movements, and we do that last because it's not very important. We really only do isolation movements if we're trying to rehab something or we're trying to strengthen a very specific muscle group because we don't want it to get injured. For example, laying hamstring curls, you could do those because you're not trying to have your hamstring injured during the season, and you need it to be strong and ready for whatever. But we do it last because it's not very important, and we need to be able to do everything else at full effort. And then from there, we can go into stretching and core training. Core training you can literally do after a 3-hour workout and it'll have no effect. Like you can do core training whenever. That's why it also goes last along with stretching. Okay, and then that's for single sessions. For seasons of training, right after season, all right, when you get done with your season, say you're a track athlete for this example, you just get done with your season, then you're going to want to go straight into strength, eccentrics, rehabbing, and conditioning, okay? Because right now we're trying to recover and we're trying to build our strength back up. If you just get out of season, that means you're going to be extremely lean and you're not going to have a ton of muscle on you because you were just playing a lot of sport and you weren't able to be in the weight room for a lot of time. You're probably going to be very fast, but right now the whole goal is to build your strength back up because this is the base that we're going to be using for everything else in all the other seasons of training. So we need to build our base back up through eccentrics and just rehabbing whatever injuries you had, and doing a little bit of conditioning as well. That not speed endurance, but more long distance. And then we're going to be moving it from there into power and isometrics. So isometrics are going to be helping with power and elasticity. And then we can get more into speed endurance in this phase. And then from there, we're going to be going into sport-specific power movements, supersetted with plyometrics and ballistic movements, with acceleration and sleds. So right now we're taking that power and strength that we just built and we're applying it more into ballistic fast movements that are going to be allowing us to apply the force that we just built actually into the ground for sprinting. And that's going to be done through the sport specific power, plyos, ballistic, and just doing a lot of sled movements, pulling weight horizontally. Make sure it's not vertical. Like you don't want to do sprints with a weighted vest on because that would be vertical force going down. You want something pulling you from behind because then it's horizontal force and you're going forward, and that's very sport specific. We don't want to weigh ourselves down more. And then right before season you want to go straight into weight room nervous system training, overspeed training in the weight room, plyos, and top speed training. Okay, so your sprinting for this is top speed. You're just trying to get extremely fast here. You went from strength to power to sport specific power and plyos, and then now you're into ultra fast movements, and you're going to just get extremely fast in this section. And this section is going to be a little bit shorter than the other ones, but it's just right before season, and then boom, you're in season. Sport specific sprinting, so it's just stuff that is going to be helping you specifically with what your event is, or if you're a football player, doing your routes or whatever it is, or if you're a track athlete, doing your handoffs, doing your block starts, very sport specific training. And then you're obviously going to want to still be implementing some power movements and plyometrics to maintain what you've been building throughout all of the off season. And then peak season, when you're trying to peak for like a specific race and you're trying to get to your top speed at a very specific time of the season, like for state or for your title game or whatever it is, then you want to be doing overspeed training on the track with hurdle plyometrics, light and fast Olympic lifts in the weight room. So the most important thing right there is just the overspeed training on the track. That's really what's going to get us to our very, very, very top speed. So we have all the strength and power that we built from the off season, but now what's going to get us to peak at a specific meet is right before peak season, we need to be doing overspeed sprinting, something pulling you even faster a few weeks before that peak. So that's gonna be super important in order to hit your peak speed in peak season. So that's the different seasons of training, and that's how you would structure it. Okay, and then from there, you really just wanna stay consistent throughout each season and throughout each workout. Stay consistent with your diet and your sleep. Those are gonna be things that are super important. If you're gonna be doing all this other stuff, I mean, you might as well make sure your diet and your sleep is gonna be right, because the recovery process is basically just as important as the actual training itself. And fast twitch muscle fibers are lost very quickly, so you have to use them or lose them. So basically, you just gotta stay consistent. So that's the 3-step system for if you're strong and fast and you're probably just not seeing a lot of progress. So again, going over one more time, work on your weaknesses, analyze yourself and make a list. Do your most important movements first when you get into training. Switch up your training routine, shock the body, start going through phases of training, which is in single session, as you can see there. And then I just went over seasons of training and stay consistent. So that's the 3-step system. And actually I'm gonna give a bonus tip for you guys specifically, because I know it's a lot harder to increase your speed when you're already strong and fast. But if you were starting from, weak and slow, then there's a lot of progress that can be made from doing a bunch of different stuff. But you're already strong and fast, even just the little things matter. So with this, I'm gonna tell you, you need to be increasing your mass specific force. This is your force to mass ratio. It's how much force you're able to apply into the ground per pound of body weight that you have. So how this works is you're gonna want the lowest body weight with the highest force production returns possible. So here's a little example of how that will work. So if you decrease your body weight and you increase your force production at the same time, then that's a 3x force production, because the force that you're applying into the ground is having to push your entire body weight. So if you're able to increase your force production while lowering your body weight, then that's a 3x force production. If you are able to maintain your body weight while increasing force production, that's a 2x force production. And if you increased your body weight but maintained / slight increase in force production, then that's no force production increase. Think about that. If you increase body weight and only slightly increase force production and it wasn't proportionate to the body weight that you increased, then your force production didn't actually increase. So this can be hard a lot of times, because typically when you increase your body weight, then that's when you're getting stronger and your force production is going to be getting better. So it's extremely hard to lose weight while gaining strength. It's possible, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to gain weight while gaining strength. So if you can find a perfect body weight that you're able to continuously increase force production and stay at the same body weight, or even lower your body weight, then that's gonna be the most ideal thing, and it's gonna 3x your force production if you're able to do that. It's extremely hard, but it's definitely something that you're gonna wanna be aware of, because if you think you're increasing force production, but you're also getting a lot heavier with that force production, just make sure it's proportionate and you're actually tracking each metric. So just from now on, be tracking how much force you're able to apply into the ground per pound of body weight that you have, and try to figure out the best body weight that you can maintain for the best mass specific force. So there we go. That's the strong and fast 3-step system plus the mass specific force. Work on your weaknesses, switch up training routine, and structure workouts properly, single session and throughout the seasons, and increase your mass specific force to its best potential. And you guys will be getting faster, and you're gonna be breaking through those plateaus. So now go to the timestamp wrap up, and I'll meet everyone back at that timestamp. So go do that now. Okay, so if you selected this one, that means you selected you are weak, but you sprint fast. Now, the good news about this is that probably means you're a gifted athlete, okay? A lot of the times, if you can sprint fast, but you are not very good in the weight room, you can't push a lot of weight, then you're probably a very naturally gifted athlete and you have pretty good genetics. And honestly, getting faster is going to be a lot easier for you than maybe some of the other sections. And I can actually prove that to you, because in this section, specifically for you guys, I have a practical case study of how an athlete was extremely bad in the weight room, but he was very, very fast. And he was able to get strong in the weight room, increase his power, and was able to apply that strength back into sprinting, and he became way faster. And this case study here is Isam Masinga. Guys, I'm telling you, I've known Isam for a very long time, and he was horrible in the weight room. I mean, he was extremely athletic, and you could throw him on a basketball court. You know, you could 1v1 him in football. He would beat everyone in races. I mean, he was super athletic on any court, but right when he goes in the weight room, it was like a whole different world. I mean, he could not lift for the life of him. Not only was he not very strong, but he just looked very uncoordinated with the weights. He just didn't look like he knew what he was doing. He didn't even look like an athlete when he was in the weight room. All right. I saw this a lot of times with extremely high level athletes, but Isam knew that the only way to really get faster was to get comfortable in the weight room. So that's what he did. He had to start hitting the weight room consistently and had to get comfortable in the weight room. So that's what took him from running 10.4 his junior year in state. That was the fastest he had ever run junior year, to his senior year, 1 year later, beating Noah Lyles in the 100 meter, running 9.8. Now, I'm not saying that everyone can have this crazy of a transformation, but it is one simple factor that got him to that big of a jump, and that is weight room training and training for power, and through this system that I'm gonna show you. So here's the 3-step system that you need to be working on. Number 1, compound movements and Olympic lifts. Number 2, all-inclusive daily warm-ups. And number 3, proper training structure with consistent scheduling. So I'm gonna go over each one of these in depth and explain exactly why these are gonna be helping you and why you should be doing them. So starting with number 1, compound and Olympic lifts. So you need to get strong through the compound lifts. This is super, super important, and this is what's gonna allow you to build up strength that's gonna eventually be able to be applied into sprinting, because you're already fast, but right now you need to get stronger so that you can get even faster. So you need to train for strength. That means max weight, 5 for 5, 5 reps, 5 sets on barbell movements, okay? So that means squat, bench, deadlift, dips, pull-ups, single leg, barbell, Bulgarians. Those are the best ones. And you're gonna wanna be progressive overloading these over time. So, you know, it's not really doing anything. Doing the 5x5, getting stronger isn't gonna happen unless you progressive overload. So you need to progressive overload. That means each time you come into the weight room, you're increasing the weight each time, okay? Even if it's just by a tiny bit. Put a 2.5 on either side of the bar every single time you come back and you do that. If you miss a rep, if you miss any rep on any of the sets, then you need to stay at that weight until you hit it, okay? But if you are able to hit it, you're able to hit all 5 of the 5, then that means that you can move on and you can keep increasing the weight and progressive overloading. Remember to be doing single leg movements as well, because remember, we're still trying to transfer it into speed. We're not just trying to become power lifters. And you just need to be getting comfortable with these lifts. That's super, super important. And some of the key lifts, we're gonna go over lower body and upper body. Some of the key lifts are the same ones that I showed in the very first slides of the target weight for compound lifts. So the barbell back squat, the deadlift, the barbell Bulgarian split squat, that's the most important one, the hip thrust, the barbell single leg RDL, and the barbell half/quarters box squat. And all of the reps and sets are there. That's the target weights that you're gonna wanna be hitting compared to your body weight. So that's lower body. And then for upper body, you're gonna be doing dumbbell explosive push presses, 8 reps, 4 sets, med ball wall passes, 8 to 12 for 4 sets, explosive rope swings, dips, dumbbell lying tricep extensions, dumbbell inverted rows, squeeze at the top, barbell bent over rows, and med ball max effort throws in any direction. In general, they're explosive movements that aren't going to be getting you bulky. They're just going to be helping you generally comfortable in the weight room. So those are the key compound lifts that you're going to want to be focusing on. But the most important lift that you're going to want to be focusing on and getting really, really good at is all of the Olympic lifts. So all of the cleans, power cleans, full cleans, snatches, clean and jerks, all of that you're going to need to get good at. That's super important. Don't go past 3 reps on these. You can keep the sets high, but just keep the reps low. You are definitely going to want to be progressive overloading on these, and it should be your first movement when you get into the weight room. So as soon as you're done with your warm-up, whatever it is, or if you want to do warm-up, sprinting, and then weight room, just make sure when you get into the weight room, you're doing your Olympic lifts first, because that's what you're progressive overloading. You need to be fresh for it, and you need to be learning it each time you come in the weight room, because the form is super important. And a little tip for the Olympic lifts is you might want to go on a clap. So when you hear someone clap, then that's when you start the lift, because that'll help you with exploding off of a reaction. So you want to react and explode like you would be doing off the gun out of the blocks. And then another tip, keep the bar path close, because that's what's going to allow you to catch that barbell. Another key lift that I don't think I put there is full depth front squat. A full depth front squat is going to be obviously mainly just targeting your quad, unlike a back squat. But why I say this is because it's going to help you with your Olympic lifts. A big part of the Olympic lifts is your catch, okay? You can throw up a bunch of weight, but if you can't catch it properly, you're gonna be very limited, all right? So in order to get good at the Olympic lifts, you have to get good at a full depth front squat. And it's obviously gonna be helping with power as well, and it's a good 5x5 compound lift that you guys should be doing anyway. So go off of the reaction of a clap, keep the bar path close, make sure that you're progressively overloading this movement and you're progressively getting better at it and making sure that your form is good, because then you're gonna be able to increase weight each time and it's gonna be getting you a lot of strength and power. So that's number one. Number two, all-inclusive daily warm-ups. So you gotta figure out a perfect warm-up routine that targets every aspect of running. So all-inclusive means it targets the most important muscle groups that need to be trained and warmed up every single day consistently, drilling a technique into your head to form muscle memory, and adding force production plus leg speed work into your warm-up routine. That's a very important tip that I can give you guys. So when you're crafting your perfect warm-up routine that you do every single day, that you can even do on your off days, this warm-up routine needs to include a little bit of force production work and a little bit of leg speed work, because those are two things that if you practice every day and you do every single day as a part of just a warm-up, then it's going to progressively get better over time, because it's something you do every day. So it's going to progressively get better over time. So you need to be adding some force production work and some leg speed work into that. So some examples for these warm-ups. First off, obviously just get blood flow, ankle circles, ankle bounces, leg swings, leg raises, 90-90s, fire hydrants, etc. And then for the form, working on form, that's drilling the technique into your head to form muscle memory. A march, A, B, and C skip, triple dribble skip, clap switches, fast leg skips, straight leg run, A run, all of those type of skips and things that are going to be helping with your technique and form of sprinting and upright sprinting. And then some stuff for force production, skips for height, putting as much force in the ground vertically as possible, and skips for distance, putting as much force horizontally in the ground as possible. Triple broad jump with a short ground contact time, 30 hard, which is pushing for 30 steps as hard as you can, sprinting as hard as you can for 30 steps, not worried about form, not worried about anything other than putting as much aggressive, forceful actions into the ground as possible for 30 steps. Leaping bounds and things like that are going to help with force production, and they're good stuff to do in the warm-up. For leg speed, some things that you can do in the warm-up: ankling, some 5 for 5. You can do high knees, you can do low knees, you can do single leg line drills, you can do some speed ladder stuff. There's a lot of misconceptions on speed ladders, on if they actually get you faster, if they help with agility. Some people call them agility ladders, but they're really not actually for agility, but they can help with leg speed. Max velocity stuff, banded pullbacks. I used to do a ton of these to increase my leg speed. I have a bunch of videos of me doing them, where the band is holding you back around your waist, and you're basically doing a high knee sprint as fast as you possibly can. Just focus on leg speed. There's no force production here. There's not really even any elasticity here. It's just straight leg speed and increasing leg speed. So that's the first part of your warm-up. And then in order to properly warm up, and a proper warm-up meaning you're able to run at your full top speed, you're ready for full sprinting, and you're ready to actually compete in your sport after your warm-up, then you need to do some sort of build-up and building up to your top speed. So here's a quick build-up progression. Build-ups come last because they involve an upright sprint, and you need to be fully warmed up for that. And this will be your last exercise before you're ready for your race or to participate in full speed activities. So build-ups require no dry phase. The idea is to start slow, and every 5 yards you increase speed slightly. How much you increase the speed will depend on the percent you are supposed to be doing for that rep. These are typically done on a field covering 100 yards per rep. So the build-up progression, as you can see here, build up to your speed, not start at 50% speed. Do that 2 to 3 times. Build up to 65% speed 1 to 2 times. Build up to 80% 1 time, and then build up to a top loose 90% speed 1 time, and then at that point you should be ready to sprint at your full speed and compete in full speed activities. And you should only be getting up to that top speed when you're doing your build-ups at the end of the rep, okay? So remember, there's no dry phase in this, there's no acceleration. You just build up to it slowly, and on the last couple of yards, that's when you're at that percent of speed for that rep. So that's how you properly do build-ups and building up to your top speed and building up to be fully prepared and ready. So that's number 2 of your 3-step system. We covered compound lifts and Olympic lifts, and then we just covered all-inclusive daily warm-ups, the whole process of that. Now we're going to cover proper training structure with consistent scheduling, because this is very, very important. If you want to get stronger, you need to be on a consistent schedule that you can actually stick with. So that's number 1. You need to write down a realistic schedule that you can actually stick to no matter what. Make sure you have active recovery days, all right? Not every day should just be straight up recovery. There should be active recovery days, meaning you do your sprint warm-up, or at least half of it. So that warm-up that we went in that last section, you guys should be doing that as a workout for some days as active recovery, or at least doing half of it. That way you're staying consistent with it and you're getting active and getting the blood flowing every single day. I'd recommend only one full rest day throughout the week, and that rest day should be including healthy eating, lots of water and electrolytes, and definitely 8 hours of sleep. And a tip that I can give you guys for a daily schedule is to have a daily routine, a morning routine and a night routine, and it'll make sure that everything is consistent and you do the same thing every day, and that way everything is consistent. All right, and then transitioning more into training structure, I'll go over quickly the seasons of training. So with the seasons of training, you want to be focusing on strength, eccentrics, rehab, and conditioning right after your season is over and you're starting your off season. That's going to be super important for base and getting your base strength. And then you're going to want to move into power, isometrics, and speed endurance. And then from there, go into sports-specific power, plyometrics, ballistic movements, and acceleration, and pulling sleds. And then from there, move into right before season starts, you want to move into weight room nervous system training, overspeed weight room training, plyometrics, and top speed training. And then in season, to maintain, you're going to want to keep doing sport-specific training. So whatever your sport requires, just do that very specific training that's going to help you with your actual event or sport. And to maintain your muscles, you're going to want to do sport-specific power training with plyometrics to maintain, and definitely do some Olympic lifts in there as well. And then overspeed training for peak season. If you're trying to peak for a very specific time in the season, then you're going to want to do overspeed training on the track, having something pulling you even faster. And you're going to want to do hurdle plyometrics. And in the weight room to maintain, even during peak season, you can still be doing Olympic lifts. And then that next point is just, if you really want to see progressive progress, you're just going to want to stay consistent on that path of your daily schedule, your morning routine, your night routine, and the different seasons of training throughout each season, each day. You're going to want to just stay consistent with your diet, your sleep, within everything to see progressive progress. And then also fast twitch muscle fibers are lost very quickly, so you got to use them or lose them. That means you have to stay consistent. If you're not staying consistent with your sprinting, with your training, your fast twitch muscle fibers are the first to go. So try your absolute best to stay consistent with the training, or else it'll be downhill very quickly for your fast twitch muscle fibers. So that's the 3-step process for if you are weak in the weight room but sprint fast. So we had, really quickly going back over, we had the compound lifts, so train for strength. We went over the key lifts for lower body and upper body, and we talked about the importance of Olympic lifts. And then number 2, we talked about the all-inclusive daily warm-up, making sure that you're including super important muscle groups and things to work on. We showed you an example for a warm-up, and we showed you the build-ups. Number 3, we talked about the importance of proper structuring and consistent training. So we went over the 7-day schedule, the seasons of training, and stay consistent. So the last things I have to say about this one is, don't take my word for it, take his, because he went from 10.4 to 9.86 in literally 1 year, and it's because he was horrible in the weight room, didn't know what he was doing, would admit to this day that he had no idea what he was doing, to getting extremely strong, is now extremely comfortable in the weight room, can clean, front squat, all this stuff is extremely comfortable. It's a daily habit for him now, and that is really what took him from 10.4 to 9.86 in literally just a year, which is crazy. And I'm not promising that type of transformation, but that is literally how he did it. He wasn't weight room training, and then he started weight room training. And that type of weight room training that I showed you, a lot of compound lifts and a lot of Olympic lifts, is exactly how he did it specifically. So that's all I got to say on that. you guys should go to the timestamp wrap up now, and we'll all meet back up there. Okay, so if you're watching this one, then you selected that you are weak in the weight room and sprint slow. So if this is you, then you're probably starting at a lower genetic standpoint, which is not necessarily a horrible thing, or you probably just haven't put enough time and effort into it. Maybe you're just starting out, maybe you're young. It doesn't really matter, but here's the good news. The good news is if you are weak and slow, then that means you only can get better from here. You know, there's only upsides. You can only get better, and basically anything that you do in the weight room or on the track or on the field, whatever workouts you're going to be doing, they're going to be getting you better. Okay, so that's the good news. All right, also speed is not genetic. All right, this is a big misconception. What is genetic are the muscles that are required to be fast. But the thing about that is all muscles can be trained and developed over time. There's not a single muscle in the human body that is required for speed that you cannot train and develop. Okay, that means you can get faster, you can get extremely fast. Speed in and of itself is nothing without the muscles. The muscles are everything, and all muscles can be trained and developed. So you just have to stay consistent and train the muscles, and you will eventually get fast. That's just how it works. And like I said, you've got nothing to lose. You're guaranteed results basically because you're starting from a lower standpoint, and basically anything you do will help. So here's what you're gonna do right now. Learn some of the basics. I'm gonna go over a few of the basics. I'm not gonna go over everything that I went over with all the other groups. I went more in depth with all the other groups. But with you, I'm just gonna give you a few of the basics that you might wanna start with. And then because you're starting from this position, I want you to actually go find another timestamp that fits you best. Even if you don't think that you are strong or fast, you're better at one more than the other. You might be faster than you are strong or stronger than you are fast. So I want you to go and just don't pick the one that you just picked and go pick another one, because you're starting from this place. You might as well learn as much as you can. But I'm still gonna give you some basic information to go with as someone who doesn't feel like they're strong in the weight room or fast. So here's your 3-step system that I'm not gonna dive too deep into. But first you're gonna wanna start getting really comfortable in the weight room through compound movements. That's with the barbell, and just doing 5x5, getting strong, doing a lot of Olympic lifts. All right, that's all of the cleans: power clean, hang clean, snatch, clean and jerk, all of the Olympic lifts. You need to get comfortable doing those and get really, really good at them. And actually, if you were to take anything I said out of this whole screen and just went with one thing, just ran with one of them, that would be it, just the Olympic lifts. If you just go and apply yourself to Olympic lifts and you really get good at them, then that alone is going to be so important, and you're going to get a lot faster just from that, and you're going to get super comfortable in the weight room. All right, and then if you become good in the weight room, then you can go and watch the video of good in the weight room but slow. You know what I'm saying? So you want to pick something to get good at, and I would recommend the Olympic lifts, and you can watch the other videos from there. All right, and then also sports-specific power movements, and you'll learn about that in some of the other videos. But you want to shock the body, get comfortable with the barbells and dumbbells, train for strength, and learn the Olympic lifts. That's super important. Just get comfortable in the weight room. Also find out what your weaknesses are. I know you might feel like there's a lot of them, but you want to figure out the most prominent weaknesses that you might see within your running or within your lifts. So whatever that is, then you're going to want to target that and work on it a lot. And then the next thing is you're going to want to be using that strength and power that you're getting from the Olympic lifts and applying it into usable force production through plyometrics. Okay, so you want to do the central nervous system plyometric training. The central nervous system training is going to get you coordinated. All right, right now you might not be as coordinated as you want to. All right, the nervous system is how well you're able to move your body, and you being able to control exactly what your body does. All right, a lot of the times it might not even be that your muscles aren't allowing you to sprint faster. It's really just that your nervous system isn't coordinated enough to move your body fast enough to do that. All right, so nervous system training is really going to help with your coordination and allow your muscles to be used in the right way. So that's super important to be training, especially for where you are right now. And then you're going to want to be building usable power and elasticity through plyometrics. And then you're going to just want to sprint more often. All right, that's a super simple 3-step process: central nervous system, plyometrics, and sprinting more often. All right, try to get up to your top speed at least 3 days a week. And if you do those 3 things mixed with some Olympic lifts, you'll be good. All right, but I still would recommend to pick one of these. All right, don't pick the one that you just picked, weak in weight room and sprint slow. Pick one that would fit you the best if you had to pick, and go for that one. All right, go there now. All right, welcome back everyone. I hope you guys all enjoyed your personalized speed training systems based on whichever one that you picked. And right now we're just gonna tie it all back together. I'm gonna give you a 3-step system that each one of you can be applying. You're probably gonna see some repeats depending on which one you picked, but I'm gonna be going over the most important out of all 4 of these, because each person got their own stuff, but I'm gonna go over again the most important out of all of these that each one of you should be doing no matter what kind of athlete you are. And that's this 3-step system for everyone. So the number 1 is the Olympic lifts. All right, the Olympic lifts are just so unbelievably important. If you get comfortable with these and you get good at these, your power is going to be increased dramatically, and you're just going to be a lot more comfortable in the weight room, and it's going to increase all of your other lifts. All right, your squat, your front squat, and it's also going to be increasing your force production and fast twitch muscle fibers, especially if you're also implementing sports specific power with your Olympic training. And then that leads me into number 2. Make sure it is usable power through central nervous system, plyometric training, and sprinting, especially the plyometric, okay? So you wanna be supersetting sport-specific power movements with plyometrics. Why are we doing that? Because there is no force production while sprinting without force absorption. Think about that, because you first have to land on the ground, on a single foot, on the ball of your foot. You have to land on the ground and then apply the force off of landing it. So there is always force absorption and then force production. There's never force production without force absorption while sprinting. But in the weight room, when we're pushing weight, we only do force production. That's why we need to be supersetting power movements with plyometrics, because plyometrics are both. They're absorption to production. All right, so they're going to be decreasing ground contact time, and they're going to be increasing elasticity, and they're going to be teaching our body to absorb force and then produce force within short bursts of time, especially if we're supersetting that with a power movement. So that's super, super important that you guys are implementing tons of plyometrics into your routine. And then obviously continue to sprint. Sprinting is the ultimate plyometric. Get up to your top speed at least 3 times a week. That's just a no-brainer, and that's something that you gotta be doing consistently if you wanna get faster. And then number 3, find your weaknesses. You know, what part of your race needs the most improvement? Is it your start? Is it your top speed? Is it the end? So if it's your start, then I would recommend working more on your sport-specific power for quads and hip flexors. Your start of the race is very quad dominant, so working on your quads and working on your hip flexors. And then once you start transitioning in your top speed, say your top speed needs working, then I would recommend working on your hamstrings, because when you're at your top speed, you're pulling, you're not pushing into the ground, you know, you're pulling with your hamstring, and you're popping off the ground. So there's not a lot of aggressive force production. It's more elasticity that's handling the force production, which is your Achilles. So I'd recommend working on the hamstring, the Achilles, and obviously the hip flexor, because that's what's going to allow your leg speed to be faster. And we need fast leg speed at the top speed. So what I'm trying to say is pick your weakness and work on it, and break it down what needs to be worked on within that thing, which I think I did a pretty good job within each of the different sections, breaking those things down. And then next thing is, it doesn't matter which one of these you said that you were, all that matters is what you do from here. So what I want you to do now is make yourself a promise right now that you are going to take what you learned from this customized plan and actually start implementing it into your daily training routine. So you pick the one that best suited you and who you are as an athlete, and I want you to actually start implementing that, because that's the only way you're actually going to get better. Because if you really want to get faster, these frameworks will get you there, but only if you actually do it. All right, and then the last point I wanted to touch on, I talked about this in one of the sections, but not in any of the others. Speed is not genetic, but muscles are. And obviously muscles are what help speed, but all muscles can be trained and developed over time. So if you are not genetically gifted, if you're not genetically fast, then it does not matter, because all that speed is muscles, and all muscles can be trained, meaning you can always get faster no matter what. Now, obviously there are factors of speed that are bone structure, height, how long your legs are, that kind of stuff, but all of that is uncontrollable. It's an uncontrollable factor, so we just don't even think about it. It's just irrelevant. It's an uncontrollable factor, so all we know we can control is the muscles, and that's what we work on, okay? We don't control what's not controllable, okay? So focus on the muscles, and you will get faster no matter what, because muscles are what make you fast. And if you do that for a long period of time, you are guaranteed results, 100% results guaranteed because of that, because it's just muscles and all muscles can be trained, okay? So what I want you to do is go and rewatch or watch what you haven't already. So again, these were the 4 sections right here. Either rewatch your section or go and watch a different section, because there's a lot to break down within each one of these. And if you want to know what was in each one of these, this was kind of a general framework for 3 of them and kind of the different things that I talked about in weak but fast, strong but fast, strong and slow. Those are the 3 topics that I covered in each one of those. Thank you for watching to the end of this personalized speed breakdown for you. This literally took me like a week to make, so make sure you like it, you subscribe, and you share it with some teammates. And tell me in the comments which section you picked and if it was helpful, and I'll respond to all the comments. Thank you very much, and peace.